Hi, it's Barbara Gabogrecan, and I'm now commencing step 3 of the silk painted wall hanging I am painting for Blamey and Saunders for their heritage listed building in East Melbourne. I have now reached the most exciting part of my work, adding colour. Silk actually enhances colour with its soft, delicate sheen. Join me and enjoy the journey. Right, I've been painting for a little while and I thought I'd show you a couple of ways that I get certain effects. First of all, I put water on the silk. This allows me to have the silk meld together better. The two colours or three colours will merge better than if I don't have it. One of the problems I'm experiencing with this is that it's a very, very heavy duty silk, so that it will hang as a wall hanging, not be framed. And the movement of the dye on the silk is extremely slow. It just doesn't like to mix the way it would on a thinner silk. So I'm doing the background first, I always do, and here I'm adding a second blue. Blue is to be my predominant colour, and the second blue, which is slightly darker, is being added, and I've got to not only make sure I get all the white silk covered with dye, I've also got to make sure that the dyes do blend together, and that is a real problem with this silk. However, there are always ways and means that you can get around these things. So once I make sure there's no white showing, I use water, and I'm literally scrubbing water into it to try and get the colours to blend together so that they won't be lumpy and bumpy and showing different angles. And once I've done that, I'm using texture for the background of blue. So to get the texture, I add salt, just grains of salt, and as these dry, they pull the colour towards them. But again, on this heavy silk, they're pulling very slowly and only in minute areas. I can show you a piece here where I've already finished it. I've showing you an area here where I've already taken the salt off, and you can see the texture in the background. Now I'm moving to one of the leaves, and again I'm putting the water on and adding the colours, and it's exactly the same technique. I try to use three colours most of the time in the actual motif, though I'm really only using two colours in the background. But here in this little leaf, I'm using a lemon colour and then a green, and right in the centre I'm putting a blue. And those three colours, you can see me rubbing one into the other, but instead of using water to rub here, I'm using the lighter colour, the lemon. It just makes it a little bit more sensitive. And that's it finished there, and it's showing you a group of three leaves there that have been done. And I do exactly the same effect with the pattern of the flowers as well. One other thing I have to do as I'm going along is make sure that I balance my blues and my pinks and my yellows so that it doesn't all clutter one colour in one area. Now this design has a lot of small patterns of lines, whether they're lines of the plants or just lines for the beauty of the curve and movement of the lines. So I'm not using water here because A, because it's small, I don't really need to, and B, because I'm not mixing colours, I'm just using one colour. And that one colour here is an orange, and then in another one there'll be a red, and in another one there will be a marine blue, which is sort of a greeny, pinky blue. It's an unusual colour actually. And so I'm just literally filling in the spaces with the colour, and you can see there's a third colour being put in there. And you'll notice again that I always work on my background. So I've done all my blue, which is the real background, and looking at the negative space as actual objects. Then I'm doing the patterned areas rather than the main flower or the birds. The very last thing that I'll be doing is the birds. And here I'm just filling in a flat patterned piece. Because it's a little bit bigger in the centre there, I'm sort of adding a bit more colour, because I know when it dries it's going to be a little bit broken in colour. Here's that blue I was telling you I put in the centre of the leaf, and I deliberately let it flow over the drawing part so that it sort of creates a fourth colour, a darker green. Now I'm going into the flower, again water, and this flower is going to have a series of pinks and purples. So I add the lightest colour first, and then use water to actually make that colour move out into the white silk and give, if you like, another colour really, a paler pink colour. And you've got to do that fairly quickly, because again on this heavier duty silk it sort of dries and holds itself before it should. Now I'm adding a slightly darker purpley colour, again just in small details, in an effort to show some tone, or if you like some gradation of colour that gives it a little bit of three-dimensional feel to it. Taking the same colour into the small piece around it, but I'm thinning that down a bit as I go. And now comes water on that bit, and start to move it around too. When you use a lightweight silk, it's quite amazing how the colours move without you having to scrub into them like I'm having to do here. But the effect is very similar, just a bit more work to do it this way. And so there we have one petal, and you can see I've built on another petal there, and I've just decided to do the leaf, similar to what I was doing the other leaves that you saw, with yellow and green and a touch of blue. And that's what it looks like when it's finished. Now you'll notice I've really completed the background of this section, except for the birds. There's my main big bird, and two little ones there in the centre, and the two on the far right. So that's the last step that I have to do. I have to paint those, and again, as I said, make sure that my colours are sort of gelding and getting along with the other colours. So now that I have finished those, there's our big bird in the combination of the pinks, reds and purples, and the other birds are a combination of the reds and greens. And that's the end of this section. I then have to take the silk off the screen and move it down so that I can actually build the next one, draw the next section to go. So we're about halfway in length, but the next part that I have to paint is not as complicated, so therefore will be a little quicker. Hope you enjoyed that. Cheers.